So yeah, so a lot of people have seen CandleGlance, and of course, you open every show looking at your tech overviews in CandleGlance. But there's some tips and tricks we can do with CandleGlance, and we're going to go through some of those. So we're going to go first to see if we can show you where to find all of these on the various locations on the site. We're going to go through some of the settings and some of the usages and why we would want to use some in one ways and some in other ways. And then we can show how to create a custom style. So we're going to get going and jump over here. We'll start off like we almost always do at our member dashboard. And the first place we can go is to the free tools. This is something that everybody has access to, of course. And we've got our CandleGlance groups here. And initially, we can put in 12 of our own symbols separated by commas, or we can select from a predefined list. And there's probably 15 or 20 groups there. And then, of course, major industry groups around there. So there's a hefty number of predefines there. We'll just go ahead and grab some of our major US indexes. And this is the view that is very similar to where Tom starts out with. The nice thing is about the CandleGlance is you get this sort of 30,000 foot view. You can very quickly look at a lot of stocks or indexes, whatever. We have down here our legend. We have the blue line on all of these is a 20-period moving average, simple moving average, and the red is 50. So those are on all of our charts. So we can very kind of quickly see who's above moving averages, where you've got crossovers, whatnot. We can change our duration of our time. We can go anywhere between 2 days, which is essentially maybe a equivalent of a 10-minute bar, all the way out to a year. So we have different time frames that are available to us. We also have PNF charts for point and figure charts. These can take up a little bit more space depending upon the price action over time, as you can see. So this isn't quite as neat and ordered as the price views. We've got percent versions of the PNF as well. I'll go back and look at 2 months as our default, so we usually start there. We can also add an indicator if we want to see a little bit more than just these basic moving averages. We've got probably 15 or 20 indicators here. We can select one. We have the ability to change the parameters. Hit our go button here. We add the MACD in this case. We can also, as you can see here, sort. So we can change this to a descending order if we want to sort in a particular order. It ends up being, to a certain extent, a small version of the scan engine, or a sort of a screener. Allows us to sort in particular orders. We've got, like say, we've got PMO here for Aaron. There we go.
Yay, so that's PMO.
Yay, PMO. And we'll go back to our members dashboard, and I'll show you the other use that's probably more popular with the members, is that any of our chart lists can be viewed as a CandleGlance. So we can take the results of a scan or whatever and look at those. Let's see, I had another list here that was very similar to Tom's essential major indexes. What we can do, like here, we can start to see where areas in this particular use case of the indexes of which areas of the market may be doing well versus others that aren't. Last time I was on, we were talking about how to use something like the Dow Jones Industries. There are about 160 or so of those that we had, I believe, in our scan. And for me, the CandleGlance is very useful if we're only looking at maybe about 20 or 30. We fit about 30 on a page. When you start to get multiple pages, for me personally, it's just a little bit too much. So it's nice to have a smaller subset so we can look at basically everything in one shot here. So we can start to get an idea of, like Tom was talking about, the small caps doing relatively well recently. We can see the transports breaking out. Utilities aren't so hot. And we can.
I would also add too, Bill, I think, when you run a scan and you come back with a lot of results, say 100, normally what I'll do is I'll refine my scan, try to cut down on the number. But the other thing is, if you use the CandleGlance, it's much easier to go through those 100 stocks, looking at them 30 at a time with these little, mini charts, than it is to pull up one at a time. If you know
exactly.
So it can be used to go through a number of stocks rather quickly.
Yes, and that's I'll get to some more of that in a minute, but it's exactly true. We were talking about the ability to sort these and rank them. One thing I will sort of warn people against is a lot of these items are, well, let's see if we can find one who has a good version of this that will show us exactly what we're talking about. PPO is one where we've got the same scale. Sometimes we'll notice what you sort of want to look out for is to have this tendency of saying, well, this chart has something, the price has been going up and it's up in the top right corner, which is where we kind of like to see things. But this one's not so much. Maybe one of our other ones, oh, this one's not near the top. So you would have this tendency, we would say, to say, well, clearly the one that's in the top right is performing better. And you kind of have to keep that in check a little bit, because you'll notice that on the right side here, our legend, the scaling is different. So a big move on a chart that has a very small scale may not be the same percentage move as a chart that has a larger scale, larger numbers. Similarly, if you've got an indicator that's based on price, that price may have a different value as well. So you don't necessarily want to rate these based on the numbers in the scale unless you're sure that you're looking at the same your apples to apples, because there can be a tendency to kind of just look at the raw numbers or the raw visual patterns and assume that since they're similar, we're looking at them and seeing similar items, that we can make comparisons, and not always the case. So just have to kind of be aware of that. So as Tom mentioned, another way we can look at this is I'll go back to my test list here, and this is a list I created out of some scan at some point in time. We go back to our default. We have no indicators here. We can simply go through, as Tom mentioned, say, well, we've got our little, when we hover over it, we've got our little trash can. And as much as we'd like our scans to return things that are perfect and we can act on immediately, just sadly doesn't work that way. So we will get a little bit of noise in here. So we want to just kind of go through and clean this up. So we can go over to each of these CandleGlance, and we can hover over and we get the little trash can there. You can see it turns red, and we can just delete it. And when this is designed to be a very quick sort of, as Tom mentioned, very quickly go through, delete things, and just get rid of them. You'll notice there, I didn't get a prompt to say, are you really sure? So you want to use this feature on chart lists that are sort of temporary, because they will just, the symbol will just go away. We're not going to ask you. So if you've got your favorite list, be careful. You just really probably want to do this on lists that are temporary. And like we say, well, Gilead's not doing that great. Scripts maybe over the long term. We can very quickly go through and weed out some of the duds here and come up with a section that's giving us much more of what we want to see. When we do have similar items, one of the indicators we can use, for example, is the scooter line. And the scooter line does compare like items. It will fall into the respective, what we call universes, small, large, mid ETFs. So we're closer at being able to compare apples to apples here. If we had a chart list that was all large caps and we did the scooters and we ranked them, then we could see a ranking of that we could trust. Here we have rankings of a number of different scooter types, no doubt, but we can rank them from the best to the worst. We've now gone below one screen, so we got all of them on one page now. If we had multiple pages, of course, we'd be able to go through and sort them and scroll through the different pages. So this is something we can very quickly say, okay, TripAdvisor obviously had a huge breakout and continuing to follow on to that. So it's got a fantastic scooter, huge jump in the scooter there. So we can very quickly use something like the scooter line as a scan result after we've run our scans to sort of additionally weed out certain areas. As well, Erin may be, once she's got some scans, maybe looking to see who's got a PMO crossover recently. So maybe that's not quite so good on the PMO there. So you can use, if you've got your favorite indicators after you've run an initial scan, maybe you've got sort of a secondary set of criteria. And if those criteria are on this list here, you can then add those to this list and then quickly go through your scan results, whittling down the results to something that are a little bit more useful. And then you can move that little batch onto whatever your next process is. So we can click on the link there and get a full image. And what we can do is, if you're consistently using the CandleGlance as, say, a scan result filter, and you want to have something constant, you can create a custom style. And what we'll do here is I'm going to kind of create a sample style here that I'm going to try and please all of our commentators with the same set of information. So I know that Tom uses the MACD, earns a PMO, and let's see, we're going to get one in here for Martin Pring. And I know that Arthur, he likes the stochastics, so we'll go with that. We can update this. We've got all of our some of our commentators' favorite indicators there. Well, let's do a little change of the color to now that's nice and colorful. So we'll do that, and we'll save this. We'll add a new style, and if we call it CandleGlance, like it's spelled here, and we add that style, if we go back to our members dashboard, we go and look at our scan results. Now it'll use our style. So if we're consistently using CandleGlance as a way to, say, filter scan results, and we have a very particular favorite indicator that we want, we can save a CandleGlance style and it will be applied when we come in here. We'll check when we first bring up the CandleGlance page to see if you do have a style. If you do, we will automatically, as you can see here on the left, we will automatically jump to the custom style as by default. If you want to go back to the regular view, you can do that. You can go back here, look at a regular view and add other indicators, or you can go back to your style. When you are looking at your custom style, you'll notice that the indicator and the sorting is turned off. We will only use the indicators that you've added. We won't allow you to add more. So if you want to go add a different one, you can either go back to a different time frame and add it, or you can go update your style if you find you're consistently looking at a particular indicator. Another use for the PNF I find in the scan results is to look for stocks that have overhead resistance. So we may have something that's maybe had a little bit of a recent breakout, but may have a lot of uphill battle here, because as we start to move up through these prices here, we're going to have people who have bought at these higher prices. So Amgen, people who have bought up in the upper 190s, 180s. As we start to move through those prices, we can expect some selling action. So maybe I'm not really looking for something that's an uphill battle, whereas ADP, look, we've got like a triple, quadruple top breakout there, and it's making new highs. So that's something I'm interested in keeping. So that's another personal use that I have for the using the PNF charts inside the CandleGlance. And that's sort of an overview, a little bit deeper overview of the CandleGlance.
Very cool.
Yep, I use it all the time. I truly do.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know Aaron uses it a lot. I use it, of course, with the update at the beginning of the show. And I will occasionally, when I run a scan, if I get a lot of scan results, like I said, if I get 100 or 140, and I really want to look at them all, but I don't want to have to go back and cut them down because I'm afraid I might, exclude something that I really like. I'll bring them up in CandleGlance because it is a real quick way to take a look at 30 at a time and just say, no, no, not looking for that. No. And quickly be able to zero in on the ones that, I want to look at in more detail.
And additionally, if anybody's interested, I'll make a note to put it in today's recap. But I did write an article a long time ago, I admit, but it was all about using the PMO with CandleGlance and how to set it up and what the value is and how you can use it. So I'll put that in there, but it was called PMO plus, the plus sign, CandleGlance equals smart money.
Awesome, Bill. Thank you again for coming by and sharing another concept with us here at Stock Charts.
You bet. Thanks for having me.